Next aspect of it, this is going to be permissions. This is going to be some of the most powerful the part of SharePoint where it'll control who has access to what.
Exactly want to pay attention.
Yes.
I'm not saying nobody has not been, whatever.
Okay. So why do we manage permissions? By managing permissions, you can control who has access to a page, a site, a document, a library. And there's going to be 3 standard permission groups that you're going to be using on your sites: owners, members, and visitors. Owners have full control of the site, and that all you guys are in the owners group, because if you are not an administrator or not a principal and you're in this class, your principal sent you, so we assume that means that you are the owners. Members are content creators. They can view, add, update, and delete list items and documents. They can't delete pages and subsites. Only you guys can delete subsites. So remember, with great power comes, there you go. Again, if you delete a site, you're going to need to contact us. You cannot bring it back. Visitors can only read and download documents. So why is that important? Well, your top level site, you're not going to want to give your entire school member or contribute rights to the site. You don't want them to mess with what you're doing on there. So they're going to be, and they already have read rights to your site right now. So they can download those documents that you assign, that they need to get from you, and so on. Site owners group. The principal, again, is owner by default. The principal can make others owners as well. You as owners can make other people owners as well, but I would make sure and highly recommend you get your principal's permission before you make anybody an owner. This group should be very limited. You don't want the whole school as owners. Members groups. Members groups are responsible for adding content. So for instance, you have the school secretary may be responsible for your calendar, because you're no longer going to be using it. Anybody using the public folders for your calendar still? Good. So this is going to be your new school calendar. This is what you want. You want your home page when your teachers bring up their browser to be this. So you may have that person needs to have rights to add content to the calendar. They need to be in the members group. And again, they should have a limited amount of people in that group. Visitors group, that's everybody. They have read-only. They already do. And this should have everybody. Even you guys are all visitors as well. But the way permissions works is the highest level permissions overrides the lowest. You can make subsite owner groups. So you created a first grade subsite. You can have another owner group. It is not recommended. We do not recommend anybody making any other groups in your subsites except for a custom members group. So you would say you were working on your first grade subsite. You would keep the same owners group, the same visitors group, but create a new members group and adding your first grade teachers to that first grade members group so they can contribute and collaborate on their subsite only. Does that make sense? Okay.
You said subsite only, so you wouldn't do it on the first page?
Correct. Yep. I would not give anybody in your school member rights to your top level site. You don't want anybody willy-nilly being able to put announcements up on your front page, do you? So we don't. That's why we definitely would not want that. Subsite members group. This is what we definitely recommend for your subsites. First grade, all your first grade teachers in there. Second grade, all their second grade teachers in there. So a good example would be you have a first grade subsite. All your first grade teachers are in the members group for that subsite. They can collaborate, upload documents, share documents, but rest of your school has read rights to the subsite. So say a second grade teacher goes to the first grade site and maybe wants to look at a document, look at a lesson plan, because there may be something that lesson plan they might learn something from. They may say, okay, that's a cool lesson, maybe I can adopt it for my class. So they can download the document, but they cannot edit or mess with the document in the site itself. And then SubSite Visitors, again, I don't recommend a separate visitor group, but you could if you needed to. Where you would use that maybe is if you have a administration subsite that you want to give access. Maybe the principal doesn't want to give contribute rights to a dean, but still wants the dean to be able to get documents from that subsite. You'd give them read rights only. So, yep. So that would be a visitor group. That would be maybe the only reason why I would say a separate visitor group. And now what we're going to do is we're going to demo it, and actually you guys are going to do it. So if I can get each of you to go to your top level site. Let's get this mouse working. There we go. What was that? Yeah. That's what I say. If I can get this browser to come up. Why don't I have not? Give me a second. It looks like my connection died. Come on. For some reason my network connection just died. Doing it again. Why is it doing that? Alright, let's try this again. There we go. There we go. Finally. Okay. So, I want everybody to be at your top level site. Go to the cog up at the top right. Go to Site Settings. And on the left-hand side, you're going to have an area called Users and Permissions. Click on the link where it says Site Permissions. Now, when you look in the Site Permissions, keep going up. Hey, Site Permissions, yep. In Site Permissions, you're going to see 4 groups. You're going to see a member group, an owners group, and a visitors group, plus a IT personnel group. That is for your area TCs to have access to be able to assist with issues if you have a problem. So let's go ahead and take a look inside the visitors group. So click on visitors group. And inside that visitors group, you should have 3 user groups already in there. The TCs should know, if they look at the permissions groups there, they'll recognize those. That's the VC groups for your school. You should have a teachers dot, a staff dot, and an admin dot. If you do not have an admin dot, that means your school does not have an admin VC group. So you might want to look into that. So right now your principals don't have access if you do not have an admin group. So why is this nice? Well, what this does is, because the TC is responsible to make sure that the VC group's populated, it's automated through VC, but there can be issues. If the teacher is not in that group, they won't have access. But as long as the TC does what they need to do to add the teachers to the teacher group, they will have automatically rights to your site. So there's nothing you have to manage at all when it comes to the visitors to your site. So your teachers, your staff, and your principals should have read rights just by you guys maintaining your VC groups. All right? So that means you don't have to manage visitors, except one caveat: your itinerants. Teachers that are not assigned to your school. Your speech and language, your OTPT, your teachers that work for the district level that come and work in your school that may need access. Those people you're going to have to add manually. So how do you add somebody? Real easy. If you go to the top here and click where it says New, and either, again, the best way to search is by personnel number, but if you don't know the personnel number, you can start typing in the last name, and when you start typing in, you'll see the people populate automatically. So when you find the person you want, you select that person, and under Show Options, don't hit Share yet, but if Show Options, click on it, and you'll see Send an Email Invitation. You want to make sure you uncheck that before you hit share, because if you set using a distribution list in this and you hit share and do not take that checkbox out, it's going to send everybody an email right now. So what you want to do, where it says show options in the bottom left, click on it and take that checkbox out. Microsoft sets that by default. So anytime you want to add somebody, make sure you remove that checkbox. All right, so once you have a person in there, you can click share, and then they'll be added to your group, so your visitor group. So go ahead and hit share. Let's get somebody in there. Just so you guys know how to add, and because I'm also going to show you how to remove. Does everybody have one in there? All right, so once you have somebody in there, the easy way, make sure you take the checkbox out and then hit share. Okay, so to remove somebody, all you have to do is put a checkbox next to that person's name. And then there's an action button at the top. You click on action and remove user from group. And it's going to say, are you sure? You say okay. And that person is going to be removed from permissions from your site. All right. So now you know how to add and remove from a group. But you also are aware that as long as you're using your VC, all your staff have access to your site by you do nothing. You don't have to do anything. As long as the TC maintains VC, which they should, that's a standard, they have access. All right. So now let's go to the wheel at the top here and go to Site Settings again. This one keeps popping out. I wonder if this cable is a mess. Keep losing it. Site settings and site permissions. Maybe. There we go. All right. So now let's take a look at the owners group. Inside the owners group, you're probably going to see web services and internet admin. That's all fine and dandy. That's going to be us. And then this is you're going to see yourselves. All right. This is where you're going to add your owners if you need to in the future. So if you don't see your principal in there, I highly recommend you put your principal there. And make sure you take that checkbox out so he doesn't get an email right now. All right. And the easiest way to search, if you don't know the personnel number, is last name, comma, space, first name. All right? Make sure you take the checkbox out. There you go. All right, so that means everybody's got their principal in there? Oh, okay, cool. So now you know how to add and now you know how to remove. Let's see. Now what I want you guys to do, I want you guys to go to, you guys have already created at least one sub-site with Hector, right? So what I want you guys to do is I want you to go to the, if you're in elementary school and you created a grades, go to your first grade. If you're a middle school, go to, and you're using curriculum, pick something that you've already created. And let it be a actual, like if it's English, actually a curriculum level. So this is how you're going to make custom permissions for your site, for a sub-site. All right? So this is how you're going to control how sub-sites, your first grade teachers have access. So what I'm going to do is you're going to go to the sub-site that you're going to do this to, go to the site actions, site settings, and then site permissions. Same way. All right? And what you should see, site settings, site permissions. There you go. So what you should see is in this yellow area across the top, it's going to tell you this website inherits permissions from its parent, right? Because we didn't do anything. Because when you remember Hector, when you created those sites, he told you to use the same permission as the parent. So what we want to do is we want custom permissions for this. So click on the button at the top where it says Stop Inheriting Permissions. And then click OK. Now you're going to get this lovely window. So you're going to define the permissions for this sub-site. The top one is going to be the visitor, the middle is the member, and the bottom is the owner. So we already decided that the visitor group and the owner group, we always want them to be the same, correct? We want the top level owner. So there's a radio button for visitor at the top. It says Use Existing Group. Make sure that is checked across the top. And then select the visitor group that is created for your school. The same one. All right? Everybody has the visitor group? The middle one, we want to create a custom one. So go ahead and say create a new group, and then in the window it's already going to pre-fill whatever the name of the site is, members. Leave that by default because that's a good name. It's a standard. In the box below you're going to see your name. Leave it there for now because it needs something in there to create it. And then the bottom one is the owner group. This is important. We find lots of mistakes when people create sites and sub-sites. They don't make the owner group the owner. So that means you can't manage it. So make sure you use existing group and then select owner from the drop-down list for the top level owners. If you don't see it, you should see the word more. Then you'll drop down list and select owner. So if you have all those three set up correctly, click OK. And then once you click OK, it's going to bring you right back to the top, to your sub-site. All right? Let's go back to the settings and take a look. Site settings and site permissions. And let's see what happened. Now you should have 5 groups. The 4 original one and the 1 new one. Right? So because we have the new group, and it says here, this website has unique permissions because we made them, right? We no longer need the old members group, because in reality, if you have your school secretary in the members group on the top level to maintain the calendar, do they need access to as members to the sub-site? Probably not. They just need the read rights. They just need to see what's going on. They don't need to manage it. So put a checkbox next to the school member group and hit at the top a button with the red minus. Could remove user permissions and click OK. So a checkbox next to the member group you want to remove, minus, and then now you should be back down to 4 groups on the site. So you have the original owner group, the original visitor group, and the new member group. Perfect. Let's open up the new member group you just created. And inside there, you should see yourselves. Let's go ahead and remove yourselves. See if you remember how to remove yourself. All right. Now, this is where permissions can get, we try to make it as easy as possible. We don't want you to have to manage permissions constantly on the sites. So what we're going to do is everybody has a distribution list. Every school has distribution lists for their grades in elementary school. It'll be their 3-letter code dash for 1, 3-letter dash 2, 3-letter dash 3, right? So, for example, this is a first grade here, and I'm going to use my distribution list as my security groups inside there. So, the way that works is, click on New User. I'm just using an elementary school as an example. EEL1, take the checkbox out and hit share. Now, if you start typing in your 3-letter codes and do not see using yours? Okay, good. And you don't see your groups showing up, populating, that means your distribution lists are not security groups and not set up as. They're just plain distribution lists. So what you need to do is you need to put in OSR at osr.ocps.net and ask them to make all your distribution lists security groups converted. That doesn't change the functionality of the distribution list. There'll still be distribution lists for you to use. It just allows SharePoint to see those groups. And why is that good? You, again, never have to manage your first grade subsite because the TCs are responsible for those distribution lists. So when they add a teacher into that distribution list, they automatically get the first grade rights because they're in that distribution list.
And we take off the check mark as well here?
Yes, you do not want to send you always want to take it out. Always. Unless you want them to know at that moment in time. But remember, if you have 150 teachers, you're sending out 150 emails. So does everybody's distribution list show up when you start searching? Did you look for, they do not? So make sure you go into osr.ocps.net and request security to change your distribution list to security groups. So once they do that, you'll be able to see them. Now, does everybody start to understand why we're trying to use the groups instead of individuals? Because if you had to do individuals, every time you got a new person or somebody who left from this group, you'd have to do it manually. The TC has to do the distribution list anyway. They're the owners of them. They maintain them. So when a teacher leaves, they remove them automatically already from the distribution list. Then this is already taken care of.
So basically, we're doing this, we're setting it up because it's brand new to the school. So
Correct.
as the school year ends or the new one begins, it's a matter of just tweaking, but we don't have to go through this process.
Correct. That's why we're doing this. Because again, the new school year, the TC maintains the distribution lists. You don't do anything with the permissions on the site. It's done once they do it. So you know, if you have a first grade teacher that can't get to the first grade subsite, what does that mean?
The TC didn't add.
The TC did not add the teacher to the distribution list. All right? So that's... So we've now added people, we removed people, we created custom permissions on a site. What else do we need to know? First example. First, everybody go to your top level page. I have a copy request in the left navigation over there, right? If you're a teacher in the school and you see that and you click on that copy request right now, can they submit to this list?
They should.
Anyone?
Who's they?
The teacher. Remember.
They have read access right now.
Correct. So they cannot write to a list or a library because right now they only have read rights only.
Download the form.
No. Watch. This is what we're going to do. And you only have to do this the first time when you first set up your lists. Because we don't want them to have edit rights to the site, we want to do the exact same thing to this custom list we did to the first grade subsite. We want to make custom permissions for the request. Okay? And it's really easy. It's not anywhere near as difficult as doing for a subsite because all we're doing is making a checkbox. All right, so everybody pick one of your requests and click on it. All right, now at the top of the page you have the list tab. Click on the list tab and list settings. In the middle of the page, you're going to have a hyperlink that says permissions for this list. Click on that. Now, right now, as you can see, just like that first subsite, what did it tell you? It told you this list inherits permissions from its parent. Right? Right in that yellow banner. Right? Okay? So, what we want to do is exactly the same thing we did to the subsite. We want to stop inheriting permissions. And all we want to do is we're going to make a change to the permission level of the visitor group. See, right now it says the visitor group has read-only rights, right? What we're going to do is put a little checkbox next to the visitor group, and at the top box here, which says Edit User Permissions, click on that. And then put a checkbox next to Contribute. And then click OK.
And leave the one for read?
Yep, leave the one for read. Just add contribute. Now what we've done now is given the visitor group, which is the entire school, right, already, contribute rights to this list only. Even though we're using the visitor group, it does not affect the visitor group at the top level because we stop inheriting, right? So all we did was convert that same visitor group into a contribute group. So from now on, your teachers now, from this point moving forward, can click on that copy request and submit to that list. That's all you have to do. Put a checkbox. So you're going to take that list, you're going to go to the list settings, go to the permissions, stop the inheriting permissions from the parent site, and add contribute to the visitor group for each one of your requests that you've created. So if you have 5 requests, you have to do it on all 5 of them. So that's why we can keep the read-only rights to the top level. So only the people that have edit rights can add announcements. They can only do the calendar, add school links, create stuff like that. Because you want a very small amount of people responsible for that. Any questions about permissions?